In this video, we will see what are a game made of. So if we take a game, if we are going to create a game, what are the things needed to create that game? What are the things we need to focus on to create the game? So we'll be seeing that. There are many ways we can break a game into separate parts, separate elements. There are many items which is inside the game which can be given appropriate meaning, appropriate name, which help us to segregate or separate a game into. So which will help us to develop a game. See, it's a thing that when we are breaking a project into modules, it will be helpful for us to create a separate module and integrate to create a big project. Even in Unity, it's like that. There will be modules in programming application, in application environment, project environment, everything is like that. We will be segregating each and a game into separate parts, separate modules. Then we will be combining it into create a single project. It might be a game, it might be an application, it might be a software, even movies. Story writing is there, storyboard is there, cinematography is there, sketches are there. So like that. In games, we can separate the games into elements, that is mechanics, story, aesthetics, and technology. Apart from these, I can even tell players. Okay, that is not the players. There's two different players. One is us who will be playing the game, and another things which is inside the game itself. That might be players which is associated with the team, by using whom we will be attaining a certain goal. So like that. So this one by one we will see what are the things which we can discuss, how we can able to understand about these four things. First, mechanics, story, aesthetics, technology. So this is not a diagram which represents the importance of each and every concept. Everything is interrelated. You can see aesthetics is related to mechanics, mechanics is related to technology, technology is related to story, again story related to aesthetics, again aesthetics and technology is related, mechanics and story is related. See, everything is related. That's why this diamond shape is created. Okay, so everything is related. Why you might ask to see that not a particular concept is element is important in game development. So why this is created in such a way that aesthetic is first, mechanics and story second, technology. So this is because the visible gradient. This is because the visible gradient. You can see that more visible, less visible. And this is a shape gradient. See, technology is not visible to the people who are playing, but the players who knows about these technologies and they are playing, they can able to understand. Still they can't see, but they can able to understand. They can't see what is really happening, what is really written up back. For example, there is a problem created in FIFA 21. The coding path has been released. Okay, the program have been released. That created a big issue. Then they come to say that the important part of the coding has not been released, such as those things have been said. So that's the thing. This is less visible to the player, that is technology. Mechanics and story kind of visible, and aesthetics are the most visible thing and most thing which is nearer to the players, and at most the thing which is very nearer and related to the player, which gives them the immersion in the game, which gives us what kind of engagement the player can have with the game. Then comes the mechanics and story. So which is next part step when it comes to more the visibility criteria to the player's story. The game is involved with the story and mechanics, how we set the rules, how we are going to make the player move in the space which we give, all these things. And again, space is a very important thing when it comes to game. Okay, space is very important to the game. Okay, that is where we will ask the players to move here and there. That is where we will be telling the players, say this is the boundary. You cannot go above beyond that. You do whatever you want in this perspective boundary. See, this boundary, this also helps us as a level designer, game designer. We are not going to give too much freedom for the players to express. So it gives us a very good edge. It gives us a very good control over this. Okay. So this is the way. This is just an diagram which represents the visibility and less visibility to the player. Okay. So mechanics. The first thing. These are the procedures and rules of your game. These are the procedures and rules of the game. So here we will be giving a procedure to, for example, we will be having a procedure to join in a college. We have a procedure to go to a particular job. All these things we are having. Same thing here, we are going to set a particular procedure in our game and rules for our game. Mechanics describes the goal of the game, how players can and cannot try to achieve. For example, I need to, we will take this basketball, I need to score a goal, score a point. See, we can tell that the player need to catch the ball and he need to follow a particular steps and then he need to go and score the goal. And he cannot achieve in a particular way that he cannot travel through a player. If it goes near the player, if the physics comes up and the particular player needs to dash that particular player out, all these things should be achieved. These are the rules and mechanics we will be giving. How a player with a 50 kg weight moves in a different way compared to the player who is weighting above 100. Okay, these are the rules. Okay, a player who is having agility more and compared to a player who is not having that much agility is completely different. They behave in the pitch differently. These are things we need to apply through programming. These are things we need to apply through programming or settings which we can able to use to achieve. Okay, so if we compare games to more linear entertainment experience, for example, books, movies, etc., we'll note that linear experiences involve technology, story, and aesthetic. They do not involve mechanics actually. So the difference between this linear entertainment and game is this mechanics actually. The rules. Movies, we are not given any rules. For reading books, we are not given any rules. But in books, there are story, there are aesthetics, there are technologies. In movies, there are technology, story, aesthetics, okay, which makes them to the particular person to get engaged in that. But in games, when it comes to games, this mechanics plays a very important role. That is what makes a game a game. That is what changes a particular game into more engaging, more immersed, more realistic approach, which gives a realistic approach. See, for example, there is a FIFA game. If there is a chance that a player can go inside a player, means what will happen? The most important thing of tackle, all these things will not be existing in the game environment. That is the most important thing. A person is to steal that ball from that player. It is done only by the mechanics. If a player is going inside the arc or radius of a particular player, he can able to drag that ball or steal that ball. Okay, if that is not happened, it is not that mechanics is not available in the game, it will not give you a realistic approach. It will not give you anything realistic. That is more important. Okay, that is more important. So when it comes to mechanics, these are the procedures, these are the rules given to the game. Those rules should be followed by the player to achieve the goal. Those goals should be described by ourselves, the level designer, the game designer. Okay. So when we choose a set of mechanics as crucial to gameplay, when we choose a set of mechanics are crucial to gameplay, we will need to choose technology that can support them. This technology can be anything, sensor based, program based, keyboard based, everything, anything, laser based. Okay. So we need to choose the technology very wisely. It supports the mechanics whatever we have chosen. See, not all the technology can support all the mechanics. Not all the mechanics can be implemented with all the technology available. There are certain, see, for example, a game which runs in GTX board is completely different from the game which runs in RTX board. A game which runs without GPU is completely different from a game which is run in a GPU supported system. Certain games won't even start without GPU support. These are the things. These are things very important. We can visually see the difference in a game with respect to technology. Okay. So using a joystick is completely different from using a keyboard. You have a very good range with the joystick. The technology which the mechanics, the very good example. With the joystick, you will have a very good range in moving the player. But the same range will not be available when you are using a keyboard, a normal PC keyboard. That is a very good example of how crucial this technology plays a role when we are going to apply our mechanics in the gameplay. That is very important. Aesthetics that emphasize them clearly to the player. This aesthetics which gives us them the feeling, the feel to the mechanics should be very clear. It should be very clear to the player if the player gets the feel for the mechanics which we are using. Okay, and a story that game mechanics make sense to the player. See, if everything is good, but story is very bad, means it has a very bad effect. Even recently, one game had a very bad story. Even though the picturization, everything, the graphics, the realisticness in the animation to the character face, the movement in the face of that particular 3D models, everything is good. But because the story is very bad, the game didn't went well. It gets more negative reviews. Even though it's mixed review, the game got mixed review. But these are the things which we should be very careful of. Story, as I said, this is a sequence of events that unfolds in your game. So for example, Witcher, it's a story. It starts where the main character search for a particular character. A main character which is trying to save a particular character, Ciri. There are who try to save Ciri. It's a path, it's an event. Again, when it comes to basketball, it starts at the 0-0 second. The particular player need to start scoring goals. It's an event. If a player dashes out, if there is a foul, then comes another event, which opens up another event. It's event based. Every game is event based. Every event has a particular reaction. It might be linear or it might be pre-scripted. It might be having a branch. It might have a very good reaction or bad reaction. A decision can have a particular decision can have a particular outcome. There are games which has more than 2 endings. depending on choice we make. These things are everything are story. The story you want to tell through your game, you have to choose a mechanic that will both strengthen the story and let that story emerge. A story you want to tell through your game, you have to choose the mechanics that both strengthen that story and let the story emerge. Okay? So this is very important. So that's what I said. As I said before, it is interrelated. It is interrelated. Like any storyteller, we want to choose the aesthetics that help reinforce the idea of a story and a technology that is best suited to the particular story that will come out of your game. Okay, so we will be choosing the aesthetic more carefully that will help reinforce the idea of your story, and technology that is best suited to particular story that will help come out of your game. Okay, that will help come out of your game. So this is very important, guys. So this, when you are trying to find a story, when you are trying to tell a story, so this is the story you're going to tell. You need to choose that mechanics very carefully, which will strengthen the story, and the story emerges in a particular way. It immerses into the human mind that let them enjoy, let them follow the story very carefully. There are certain players who won't follow the story. There are certain players who will follow the story very carefully. For example, in Witcher, there are certain players who will be reading all the books line by line. In the Skyrim, they will read the book. The notes, everything will be read. There are certain that they won't even read. They won't take care of the books. They won't take care of the backstories. They will just play, just kill everything and end the game. There are two different players, and we need to, in such a way that we need to tell the story that impresses the people. Okay, that impresses the people. So, same thing, aesthetic, which is makes the people to observe, makes the people to taste, makes the people to feel the story. They need to use things, these skills in such a way that they make the story, they make the idea to be tasted by the people who are playing in any way. They need to they need to have the feel of that story. Okay, that technology again. So what kind of technology can be used? See, even in Pokemon Go is completely different from other type of console-based Pokemon. Even recently, another Pokemon is going to be released, and which is already said that it is going to be the highly sold Pokemon game. So that is most probably most awaited game right now. So this is what the particular technology, as per the story, that technology should be used. That will help the story. That will help how the story is set. That will help how the story is viewed from the player. Okay. So this aesthetics, if we look into this even more closer, this tells how a game looks, how a game sounds, how a game smells, tastes, feels. Okay, so this is very important. This tells the player how the game looks, how the game sounds, smells, tastes, feels. So aesthetics are an incredibly important aspect of the game design, since they have the most direct relationship to a player's experience. Okay, it is how we feel. This is how the player feels. This is how the player experience. So that's why very important, guys. So even though every aspect is very important, because the aesthetics is very closer to the players who are going to experience the game, which it is more important. We need to, because it's direct relationship. the direct relationship to the player. When we have a certain look or a tone that you want player to experience and become immersing, you will need to choose a technology that will not only allow the aesthetic to come through, but amplify and reinforce it. See, if we want to have the players scared of a particular scenario, we need to use the technology to make that happen. If we need to have a suspense reaction, we need to use the technology in that way. So, for example, Resident Evil, the darkness, the lightning effect, just used in that particular game. The surprise element, all of a sudden, a zombie falls into you. All of a sudden, a particular creature attacks you. All these things. Want to choose the mechanics that make player feel like they are in the world that I have defined. So, for example, there are mechanics which will allow a player to not defeat a particular player easily. The weapons, the villain might have a powerful weapon. The player character who is played by us might not have that such powerful weapon. The villain will be having a more health when compared to the player. There are steps taken. Certain olden days about how the play games will be there. Recently, the games of how there are some checkpoints will be available, but in the olden times there won't be any checkpoint. Yes, we can save the game, but even recently the save option is also not there. Okay, so once checkpoint reached, we going to get out, or if we going to be killed, or anyway failed to accomplish the goal, we will go back to the checkpoint. But in the olden times, this mechanics plays an important role. So even we can't able to re-energize or use certain options to fill our health bar. We will be fighting. We will be going to the boss stage. At that time, we will be having only half health. Those things also happen. Okay, and this will want a story with a set of events that let your aesthetic emerge. See, it's not like that all of a sudden the surprise or suspense element strikes you. It should be in such a way, the event should follow in such a way that it hits you at the right time. That aesthetic, that feeling gets you at the right time. So it's not like that you enter a room, all of a sudden ghost comes up. So you need to give a suspense. So you can give a sound, you can have a blood, you can have a particular feel. All of a sudden something crosses you, and then you strike them. That is what the story tells you. Okay, so what is the in which if the Gerard character finds a Pasiri, all of a sudden means what's the use in that? It's a path. Every event has a path. That is the biggest thing when it comes to aesthetic story as well. Okay, which has a more impact. So then comes the technology. So it's not like the high technology. It's like that what kind of technology will make the game looks good. Okay, not all the games are coming out with a high technology. Even today indie games are more popular. Okay, so Guardian of the Galaxy is said as the golden release. Golden release means without any bug or anything, even though Cyberpunk also said that it is a golden release, but it's not. It has more bugs. That's why lot of updates are coming out. So the graphics, when you compare the graphics of Guardian of Galaxy to other games which has a very high animations in very high 3D model, very realistic 3D models. You can compare it. It's not Guardian of the Galaxy not having like that. Yeah, you cannot have that kind of models when it comes to the fantasy-based game, but you can see the differences in graphics. There they haven't went for high technology, but the game is very good. The technology which this tells you that the technology which helps your game to give a very good aesthetics, to tell your story in a good way, to make the person who's playing in a get immersed or getting himself immersed in that. The mechanics which helps that, the technology which helps the mechanics. All these things plays a very important role. It's not like that we need to go back, go behind the high technology for all the games. It's not like that. You can see, literally you can see what are the kind of technology the people are using. See, if you are going to make a game only which can only be played by RTX means, what about the people who are using GTX? What are the people who are using only the Intel based board? Okay, so that's why the settings, in the settings there are different type of visual can be chosen. Yes, high technology will give you a very good feeling look when compared to the low, but it's not about high technology. It's all about a technology which helps your game to attain the goal. Helps you the game. What is the goal of a designer? To make the player who plays the game get immersed in himself. He kind of we need to get back and play the game again and again. That is what the most important thing as per our brain, as per our goal. Okay, it's not all about high technology. It's all about what kind of technology, correct technology which should be used when designing the game, which helps the aesthetic to take place, which makes the mechanics to be occur, which helps us to tell the story in a beautiful way, which doesn't harm the storytelling. All these things. Okay. So this player, when it comes to a game, this is the mechanics and this is the aesthetics, the feel which we get. The player, for the players who are going to play, and the space. This is the space we are going to have. Inside that we are going to play the game. Inside this we are going to design the game. Okay. This is very important, guys. Space, the mechanics, the aesthetics, the storytelling, how we can pass, how we can able to score the goal. Okay, so this image is taken by Portrait. So this is how we can able to design the game. So how these things are related, how we can help to attain a particular goal. See, when it comes to game, all these four elements are important. So the story, the mechanics, the aesthetics, the technology, all these things. They are interrelated, as I said before. So all the new games need to innovate in some way. We cannot have a same olden game. Okay, so previously the war games are completely different from the current game. So that's why Age of Empires 4 has been released. Even though the same game, they come up with a new technology, new mechanics. So because we are going for the new technology, we can able to add new mechanics. Previously in Age of Empires there were a little bit of mechanics, and now we can see more. FIFA games also. When they are using more technology, we can see more mechanics has been added. More beautiful stories can be said. Okay. And aesthetics. Because of the new technology, the visualization, a beautiful visualization can be presented. Okay, what is the difference between having a same type of players and having same different type of appearance for the players? That is given to you by the technology. Different type of players, different type of characters have different mechanics. This gives you a different feeling, the aesthetics. This can be interrelated to the story. A different type of story can be set in each and every level. So this is how we can interrelate all these things. This is how we can able to relate ourselves with these games and create a very beautiful game. Okay.